Hello, welcome to episode 18 of the One Life Church podcast, where we talk about things from One Life Church, but ultimately things that we think could, just contribute to you and your one and only life. And my name is Sara, and I'm joined, as always, by our lead pastor, Brett Nicholson.
We're co-host. Do you realize that? That's kind of a neat little title. Never had that one before in my life.
Co-host.
We should.
Yeah. Little One Life logos.
Absolutely.
We can make that happen. And we have some special guests today, and we're pretty excited. We're doing a video call for our podcast this week with a group that we've been talking about here at One Life for, almost a few months now, about an event that's going to be happening at the Henderson campus of One Life Church on January 26th. And the group is called Worship and the Word. And so today we have Dave, Tara, and Sara. And we just want to say welcome to you guys, first of all.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so we've been talking about this event. We've been talking about kind of just the day and what people can experience. But first of all, we just want to get to know you guys. I mean, before we kind of get into conversations about what people can expect for the event and kind of how your organization got started and what you guys get to do every day, just tell us a little bit about you guys.
And let me interrupt just one. This is a dumb thing to ask, but I know we're doing the distance thing and we're doing this via computer, but where are you at right now? I should know that, but I don't.
Yeah, we're currently in Denver, Colorado.
Okay, so we're doing this from Denver, Colorado. That's right. That's very impressive. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. Now answer her question. I'm sorry. I interrupted.
No, that's good.
But yeah, my name's Dave Powers. My wife, Tara, is with me.
Hi. We're together. We like each other.
We do. We actually just celebrated 15 years of being married.
Oh,
hey,
wow.
Congratulations. Way to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've actually thoroughly enjoyed being married.
Me too.
I've loved that very much. We have two sons, a 14-year-old and 6-year-old today, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, two guys. They're just awesome guys. The 14-year-old is Hunter. 6-year-old is Kai. And we've been doing Worship in the Word movement for, I guess, since 2006. We've been missionaries for, about 13 years and have thoroughly enjoyed that as well. That's like a little snapshot about us. And then this is Sara Walsh. She can fill you in on her stuff.
I'm Sara Walsh, and my husband Tom couldn't be with us. He's part of Worship in the Word too. And we've been with you guys for 5 years this fall. We came from Florida. My husband was a youth pastor down there for about 10 years, and then we moved out here to work specifically with Worship in the Word. Both couples have a real heart for reaching, out into the community and living into place, and then also pouring into marriages specifically. All kinds of stuff we're up to, but we sure love the Word and sharing the Word and ministering to people too.
Yeah, it is all kinds of stuff because as we were kind of processing this before we hit the record button on this, we heard a bunch of, I didn't hear the pouring into marriages thing. This is another layer. So it's several layers. It's more than just just more than just a group traveling around playing music. There's a lot going on. We'll kind of explore that.
Interestingly, Worship in the Word movement is kind of our nonprofit stuff that we've been doing for a long time. And about 3 years ago, Tara and I started a band, which is called Mountain City. And so we just travel around, we tour. I think we played 112 shows last year or something. We did 5 tours in 26 states. It was a blast. And Tom and Sara are our road managers. And so we did all that traveling together, which is incredible.
And all our kids. We have
Wow.
us and one who's not with us too. They're all about the same age, 13 and up.
And I think the response would be some people would think, man, that sounds amazing and great and wonderful. You're living my dream life. And other people would go, wow, that sounds terrible. Just be with the kids and kind of traveling around the country all the time. So I'm glad you enjoy it. That's awesome. That's wonderful.
There were ups and downs for sure.
Okay. That's right. So,
and mostly just a ton of ups, I'd say.
Yeah.
It was really great. So, we do that, and we have a huge heart for writing love songs specifically for relationships and marriages. And Tom and Sara have just started a organization called Soul Care. Soul Space. Yeah, that's how
Soul
new it is.
Space. Okay. That's how new it is. Yeah, we didn't remember the name.
Yep. And so they just beautifully minister to marriages. And so we frequently will couple those two things together with Mountain City and Soul Space. And do single day marriage events for different people or churches or organizations. And so it's a really fun thing to dream into life with friends.
Before we move on, I think you guys should know that we are extreme entrepreneurs.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the heads up on that. I hadn't put that together yet. I'd say that's okay. So how many? So is Worship of the Word the sort of the umbrella organization for all those things?
Yes.
Okay. So that's almost a 501c3 kind of writing on the top, and then you've got the different things.
At least for some of them, and then there's some other, independent LLCs and stuff like that. But I'd say that's been the funnest thing for us to do is just hang out together, spend time with Jesus in prayer, dream together, and then kind of stumble forward as we try to follow Jesus in what he's directing us to do. It's fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely sounds fun. I'm in the camp where that does sound fun, but I can sympathize with people that, And
So I think, people would be interested to know kind of how you guys kind of came about. How did this get started? Like, what was the vision kind of to where you are now?
When we started in 2006, we were actually working at a church in North Denver. Loved it. Beautiful people, beautiful community. And one night we were just spending time with Jesus in prayer and started feeling a nudge to step away from the church and start a nonprofit, which isn't something that we'd ever done before. So we were definitely on, I've heard some people say that there's the cutting edge, which is like the cool looking stuff where you're, got all your stuff together. But I think there's an edge beyond that called the tripping edge. And it looks like arms flying everywhere.
Okay. Yeah, that's you ought to coin that because a lot of us have been there. Yeah, I know that place.
I've actually borrowed that from my friend Ken Yonke, who is just brilliant. But I feel like a lot of our journey has been on the tripping edge. And so when we started out Worship in the Word, it was just to travel and speak and lead worship at churches and conferences and different things like
really
that.
Go and love on churches specifically. Mm-hmm. Go love on the leadership, love on the staff, love on the people. Mm-hmm. Come alongside the churches. That's really one of our biggest visions right there.
And that's how we met. Mm-hmm. They flew down to Florida. We were hosting marriage retreats for youth pastors and their wives who need a safe place. They hardly ever get away.
Right.
Find difficult to really be vulnerable and open up, with their congregants and things like that. So these guys were leading worship and some other things alongside us.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I guess somewhere in the middle of that, I was hanging out with Jesus at a cabin in the Rocky Mountains, and I had 3 days of kind of fasting and praying, and discovered that one of the reasons that I'm alive on planet Earth is to help people identify and pursue their dreams. And so I came back, and Tara and I talked and prayed through that. And we started just asking God, whose dreams would you like us to champion? And we got into all kinds of tripping edge territory after that.
It's almost that by definition, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Bloody noses for
yeah. Right. Yeah. It was fun. So one of our friends wanted to do a music festival. He wanted to start his first one with 70 bands and 7 stages in one day.
70?
Oh my gosh.
In the first one?
Yeah.
At our first one.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Good for him.
He had never done that before. We never had either. And so as we started to prepare for this, we realized that Denver statistically is maybe the 3rd least church city in America. And so the draw for a Christian music festival wasn't going to be that big. So we planned for maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people to show up. And about 12,500 people showed up, and we sold out of all of the food and water in like 2 hours.
We were back.
Yeah.
And I started running to Costco buying 2 pallets of water. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so that thing progressed and developed, and then there was other friends that God led us to along the way that, like a professional skateboarder friend of ours, had a heart to have an indoor location and take skaters on mission trips and
skate church.
Start a skate church and different things like that. So we worked with him for 4 years and helped him launch that and got him a location and all the stuff that he had dreamed about in his heart. And so We have dabbled in 24/7 worship and prayer, the idea that just being hospitable to God every minute of every day in a variety of different ways. And Tara and I actually oversaw an organization called 24/7 Prayer USA. It's part of a larger movement called 24/7 Prayer International that is rooted in England. But I think they're in 125 different countries and have been worshiping and praying every minute of every day since September of 1999. So a beautiful ecumenical group of people, and really wanting to serve churches by helping them find what it means to discover a culture of prayer, a meaningful rhythm of prayer, and just to help people connect with Jesus more. And so we've done that and many other things, but at the risk of being too long-winded, I'll stop there.
But well, I got a kick out of, we've done that and many other things. Like in some people's lists, that was many things. So there's many others. So I'd love to explore that. But I think one of the things that's really neat for people to hear, it always is for me anyway, is to know that kind of thing is going on. Because if you just get your news from your push notifications on your phone or something like that, you're not hearing about what God is doing around the world. And you hear things like that, the 24/7 prayer movement or the festivals or any number of the skateboard thing. We need to be reminded that God is working everywhere in all kinds of ways we don't get told about on the news. So, and I know Sarah's got some other questions for you, but that's really enriching for me and helpful.
Absolutely. And, and kind of getting people, I don't know, just giving more of that, like what is it that what people would expect in an event like we're going to be hosting here at One Life, but just in general, like you guys have told us a few stories about some of the things that you get to do and some people you've been able to interact with. Can you share some of that information?
Yeah. Let's see. Like, I'd say the people that we've been able to interact with has been really beautifully diverse. Pretty much every denomination, every culture, every generation of people. We've been there and done that over the last 13 years of being missionaries. It's been kind of an interesting thing because instead of developing like a marketing strategy for filling up our schedule each year, right at the beginning, God instructed us just to pray and ask Him to have people call us. And I thought that was insane.
What? That's insane.
Yeah.
You can't just...
I thought that was crazy. But He said, so here's an interesting thing, Dave. God and I have conversations. That's theoretically what prayer is about, is a two-way conversation. And so just speaking to my heart, He said, I know everybody in the world. And if you want to be a part of what I am doing on planet Earth, then surrender your marketing strategy to me and I'll have people call you. That's easy for me to put you on somebody's radar screen. The question is, do you want to be a part of what I'm doing, or do you want to beg me to be a part of what you're doing? And that was a profound thing to hear in prayer. And so for the last 13 years, I think the reason that we've had the privilege of being in virtually every denomination and culture and background and stuff is that we did surrender that to God. And just as in the case of One Life, people have called us for 13 years. And I think we've set up 2 events.
And they were both horrible. And
they both sucked. Yeah.
Nice footnote there. Okay. By the way, they were terrible. Okay.
it's how part of how we met Tom and Sarah. Even Sarah alluded to it earlier. It's just God opening doors. You hear that phrase. It's all in who you know, like famous people or people getting their name out there, and it really is. And we know the God who created heaven and earth. And He opens doors that we cannot even fathom that would open. And that has been our life. Worship and the Word from its birth to now, God has been opening doors. Like really, truly, this isn't just something we say. It's a testimony. It's our life. It's our livelihood. It's how we live. And so it's just phenomenal. We're very humbled by that.
Not sure if that answers your question, Sarah.
Yes.
But
Yeah. No, I think I'm just trying to give people another picture of well, just who you guys are. But obviously, like as you're talking about this, I would say that each event you do is probably a little bit different. Is that probably true? Like you don't have like a set thing you do each time.
I think that's really accurate. Our goal is just to hang out with Jesus and pray and try to listen well to the people that we're coming alongside and see what God's doing in their community, and then see how we can come alongside of it and be a beautiful blessing to what he's already doing. So you're right. It is pretty different every time. And it's been a beautiful pleasure and a journey to pray about this event we're doing with One Life, because same MO. I mean, we've been praying and feeling different emphases from God that he wants to highlight. And it's been such a cool journey just to craft something that hopefully comes alongside what God's doing in your community really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for that reason, it's good to stress to people that from One Life especially, as we're part of this conversation, part of it is honestly promotion of, we're hoping people will come on that day. But the genesis of it is Mark Weaver is one of our elders, and Ben Stewart, who has preached at our church, and he's the executive director over Uncharted. He was the original connection, right? He was a friend of you guys, and you came in before and did something for him, and also sat in at One Life Henderson. And Mark's passion is really to build into people, and he feels like his role as a leader at One Life is to help everybody get as healthy as they can be and encourage their hearts and get them in touch with the Lord, which in effect, that's what all of us are trying to do, but it's kind of his special ability to be like this, he may not like me for saying this, but father and or grandfather figure for a fairly young congregation, and that person that's just kind of there as a true shepherd. And he wanted this group to come in and just provide a context and a day and an experience where you can get in touch with Jesus on a deeper level. That's really what it comes down to. And even what you said a while ago was that heart for churches. I don't mind saying it. Our staff is going to be invited to a Friday night thing that Mark wanted to happen, where the staff and their spouses will be able, because as we're putting on services and doing different ministry things, that's the hard part. When you're on staff and you go to church, you're going to a thing that's filled with distractions and pressures and misspelled things on the screen that you worry about, and all those things that happen, and you feel that pressure, and they don't often get to go into a worship context where they don't have responsibilities and things like that. So we're going to be doing that as a refresher. And I think for me right now, it's as much as anything, it's an invitation to all of us to come and be refreshed in the Spirit, is to choose New Testament language, is to refresh everybody's spirits, and you guys have a heart for that. So I think that's what's going to come out. So I think one of our questions, and if I miss this, is like, what could people expect as they walk in and they show up at, we've got it from 8 to, so it's 8 in the morning, which is kind of early for many, but they show up at 8 and they're going to be there till noon. What's the kinds of things, without giving away too much, they can expect?
I'll start, and then these ladies can chip in. One of the words that comes up to us while we're praying is alignment. And it kind of fits with the beginning of a year, that you take into consideration the past, your wins, your losses, and celebrate those. You engage in grieving of the losses, and there's a beautiful biblical rhythm for that. There's a rhythm of thankfulness and kind of tying up and celebrating what God did. There's the idea of all of this stuff kind of being encapsulated in the idea of developing a deeper friendship with Jesus. And so I would say the overarching idea is we want to create space for people to deepen their friendship with Jesus. We want to help them, like kind of escort them through and invite them into thankfulness and grieving your losses, and then
remembering, and almost the concept of setting up altars is part of remembering, because One Life is journeying. Right. It's lots of individuals and families journeying together. And so as we set up these altars of remembering, it helps as people pass by these places or one another. It's like, oh, we set this before the Lord. Yeah. Here's what he did with us. Here's who he is. We get to remember who he is, how he comes through for us, and that he's on the journey with us. That's a big part of it, and bringing you back into alignment. Yeah. Times of worship and just soaking in the word is a big part of that. They'll be teaching, and Ben and Kathy Stewart will be a part of that, and as well. too, because they have a real heart for One Life, and they are our initial contact and friends, and have been with us for different events, so they kind of know how we operate.
We really could go all day.
Okay.
We really could. We don't know if anybody else would.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, you're free to, and if people stay, great.
We're trying to help people to want to come. 8 to noon feels like I could maybe do that.
Yeah.
So
well, we've had success with that time block. We're not just kind of burdening you with that. We've had some other things we've done, and then especially in the winter time, it's a good, it's cold outside, and we've had people come in, attend things pretty phenomenally during that time block. So I'm very optimistic about. Now, if you go all day, I don't know. I mean, that may. You just keep going, and then if people stay, great. More power to you. You can go as long as you.
That word alignment that Dave brought up is kind of funny, because physically our bodies get out of alignment, and so we'll go to the chiropractor to kind of get back into alignment. And I tell everybody we're kind of soul and spirit aligners. So you're going to come that day, and you're going to get kind of a massage and kind of get realigned spiritually, realigned with Jesus, maybe in your friendship or relationship with Him and with others that are around you. And so. That's kind of.
I think we could sell the word massage. I think that was probably weird for some, but if we say you're going to get a spiritual massage, I don't know how I feel about that. But then again, it might be like, hey, I'm there. People would down the doors. That's right. Pay money to come in.
I will say that in Psalm 126 it says that when the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream. The idea there, or one of the ideas hidden in there, is that when God brings you out of captivity, when He brings you into alignment with His heart, His will, His word for you in your life, that a natural byproduct of that is you get to dream again.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to dream when you're in captivity.
Yeah.
And so these types of gatherings are a beautiful opportunity and an invitation to align with God's heart, His love, His word. And in doing so, a natural byproduct of that freedom will be dreaming.
Yeah.
So we're going to be hitting on some of those things.
Yeah.
So that would be, because that was kind of a question I was thinking about as you guys were talking. What is it that you're hoping people kind of walk away with, or at least have this mindset? Maybe that's one of those things you would say.
Yeah.
I certainly hope so. And
Yeah.
I hope that they'll emerge with a deeper friendship, and maybe even a greater desire to pursue a genuine friendship with Jesus. Maybe more than they do normally,
Right.
that there's a little bit of a fire in their soul toward that end.
And if there's time for reflection or time for grieving, if the Spirit just stirs up some stuff within people, will be available to minister. And so they can start this year grounded with Jesus and moving forward, because we just get busy. We have a lot on our shoulders. People are kind of out there swimming alone, or at least they feel that. And so if we can just get reminded of God's call on them, and they can dream into that with Him,
We kind of joke about the all day thing, but and we did one of the most, speaking of memories and building altars around certain occasions a few years back, we did a thing called the Full Life Conference, which is something we did in and of ourselves as a church. And we partnered with Alpha on it, but we did this time block, and many people remember it as one of the most special moments we've ever had. Some people point back to it and go, that's the day my life changed, because God met with people in a special way. And one of the reasons that was able to happen was that time block. It's kind of like you came in, you're not in an enormous hurry to get out, you can settle in. And I guess I want to paint that picture for people that 8 to noon is still a pretty good amount of time just for get relaxed, chill out, get your worries, kind of leave them out in the parking lot kind of stuff, and settle in, and it'll have that same kind of effect that we saw. Because that was one of the main reasons people were able to be ministered to so profoundly when we did that, was because, no one was in a hurry to get out and like church on Sundays, which, that's our world. Let's just admit it. We try to cram as much as we can, and it's okay. Let's just be honest here.
And for us, it's exciting to get all of we have 3 campuses and get all of our campuses in one location for a time like this. I mean, to a specialized time, like what you just said, but doing that as one church, because we always say we're one church in 3 locations, but we get to be one church in one location for something like this. That's going to be, I'm ready. Let's go right now.
You're ready? All right, good.
Right,
and hey, and if Sarah's ready, we're ready. That's just, she's a representative sample there. So that's the way it goes. That's awesome.
I did have another question that kind of came up before we kind of close out, because we try to keep about 30 minutes for our podcast, but we usually like to go about 40, but that's right. We don't tell people that. But we're kind of in a series called Build. Well, not kind. We are in a series called Build, and the whole tagline is changing the storyline of your city. And you've talked multiple times kind of about communities you've been a part of, places you've been. You even mentioned earlier that Denver was a location that was an unchurched location. You guys had this idea to kind of change that storyline through a music concert. What are some of the places or just experiences you guys have had, I don't know, just being a part of shifting or seeing, communities and cities shift from some of these events, or even just churches you've been connected to or ministries you've been connected to?
Great question.
Yeah, great question. In about 2012, we were processing our involvement with the music festival that we had started. And I was talking to a friend of ours, John Peterson, about this very topic. What examples have we seen of actual city transformation? And John is an interesting guy because he's been involved alive in the flesh in several of these different city transformation types of I wouldn't even say events, but maybe processes. It seems more like if you are going to thoroughly, or maybe let me rephrase that, if the Spirit of God is going to thoroughly transform a city, that involves quite a process as opposed to a individual event. Outside of some of the radical examples we have, like in Jonah's day, where he rolled into Nineveh and, God's Spirit just did all kinds of outrageous things. We've seen, several examples of that throughout Scripture and throughout church history. But he told me a phenomenal story about a friend of his, and he was there in Argentina, that had just taken a different approach to city transformation than he had seen. And his approach was, instead of calling together leaders and business owners and people of influence toward a planning of an event for the city, he gathered together some key leaders and friends and said, it seems like we've done a lot of these events before, and in terms of long-term systemic transformation, we haven't seen what we've dreamed about coming true. And one thing we haven't tried is to develop genuine friendship with each other. Because what if this was true? What if the kingdom of God moves and functions best in the context of friendship, as opposed to the alignment of a specific event or project? And what if in the context of friendships, things are more sustainable long term? Mm-hmm. So he invited them all into friendship. He said, let me ask you guys a question. I mean, do you know each other's spouses' names? Have you ever spent time at each other's homes? Have you ever cooked a barbecue? Or do you ever call or know any of the details outside of the church or business context that you're in? And everybody kind of opened their eyes wide and thought, no, I don't think we do have that type of environment. So his invitation to them was the idea that as they developed friendships and as they prayed, that God would reveal his heart and will and plan for them and their city through the friendships. So they did that. They met for several months and just shared stories and prayed together. And at some point in that process, somebody spoke up after a prayer time and said, I saw the weirdest thing while we were praying. It was a picture of a bunch of us standing at the entrances and exits of our city. And we were praying over everybody that went in or came out of our city for 7 days. Well, somebody else popped up and said, that's crazy, because during this prayer time, I just saw a bunch of us roaming through every street and alley of our city, and we were praying for every person in our city to know Jesus. And another person stood up and said, well, this is getting weirder, because I saw a bunch of us at every historic monument throughout our city, and we were just praying and saying, God, if there's anything weird that happened when this monument or this story went down, We want to invite you into the roots of our city and ask you to redeem that and bring it into the light. Another person said, well, that is super weird because I saw us going to people of influence in our city and just asking whether they were believers in Jesus or not. We were asking if we could just bless them and their business or the work of their hands. And we were doing that for 7 days. So there was this real buzz in the meeting when that happened. Right. And one of the ideas was, what if we just on the 8th day celebrate whatever God does through these 7 days? And so that was their plan. Throughout the process, as the planning and details started coming together, one of the leading news radio stations in the city got wind of it and said, why don't you just use our radio station as kind of an information hub? You can call into the radio station. We'll report the news of what is happening throughout the 7 days. Well, they started this event and people started calling in. They'd say, we're on the north side of the city. We just saw 50 people give their lives to Jesus. We're baptizing them all in a pool. And we prayed for this one guy and he was healed by God. And this was going out over the airwaves and the radio station. So as momentum mounted throughout those 7 days, there was on the 7th day, there was this kind of unforecasted weather phenomenon that happened. It wasn't on any of the forecasts, but it showed up. And my friend John's, my John, dadgummit, I can't talk. My friend, his friend got on the radio to the chagrin of all the other leaders that were involved. And he told everybody, Jesus spoke to the wind and the waves and they obeyed his voice. He said we could do the same stuff. So I'm going to tell this thing to go and everybody's going to watch it go. Because it was like threatening to rain out their big celebration on the 8th day. He did. And in front of the entire city, I think at the time population was about 180,000 in that city. The weather phenomenon left. It evaporated in front of everybody's eyes. The next day, they thought about 10,000 people were going to celebrate, and 60,000 people showed up.
Whoa.
Many of them, thousands, giving their lives to Jesus, baptizing him all day long. That started a systemic transformation of the city. So anyway, John was telling me this story, and I said, let me ask you a quick question. How long ago was that? At the time, he said it was 15 years ago. I said, all right, are those people still friends with each other and with Jesus? He shook his head, yes, and he said, you would not believe the type of friends they are. They champion each other, love each other, bless each other like crazy. It has fundamentally changed the fabric of their city. And so I was so inspired by that story. Again, sorry for the long-winded story, but I was so inspired by that, by the idea that the kingdom of God functions beautifully within the context of friendship. And I think whether it's these one-time events where we partner together and we plant seeds in an environment, and you guys are sitting there in all three locations and in your cities, nurturing them and watering and helping them grow and all of that stuff. Our role in that might be to come in and help plant seeds and partner with you. But whether it's something like that or whether it's something deeper that develops, like a friendship, which is what we hope with you, that is an example of some of the stuff that our heart cries out for and something that we feel very passionate about. Hope that actually things like that happen while we're with you.
Yeah. And those are the things that partnered why Worship in the Word has started businesses, and we're able to send missionaries out. We're able to support them, mentor them toward their dreams and their own businesses and individual anointings, but also reaching the city. I mean, Denver still is quite a city to reach for Jesus. So it's really been beautiful championing friendship, because as people come to One Life, our hope would be as they develop and just get to sit with Jesus and see how much of a friend and how much he adores them, that they would actually go out at noon, feeling that friendship, of course, and cultivating that with him, but then also with each other, because that's the incubator for dreams and for running together and heading toward what you all are stewarding and shepherding and have been praying for, because you love your people and you love your communities.
Wow. Well, that's terrific. I mean, it's awesome way to kind of even talking about how people are walking out, probably a good way for us to kind of close out. Introducing you guys and being able to talk about this event, and we're very excited to be able to host it, but ultimately just to meet you guys. And man, I think that's great. I think Brett and I would agree that we hope for that for people too, that they be friends with not only each other but people in our community. So
yeah, and I love that sense of starting there and then moving outward into the transformation of a city, because that's actually what happens. Because that's our whole theme is going to be, in the end, building a great city is just loving your neighbor on kind of a larger scale. It's in every way, and then as you see that go out, you'll see your city transformed, and that's what we're praying for, and we're already seeing it. And I think this is just going to be another push on that and the deepening of it. And so hopefully people all relate those things together. But I'm really hoping that individual hearts will get refreshed, and then friendships are made, and then transformation and impact will happen throughout the city. So it looks like it's going to happen. I don't know why it wouldn't. So we're going to be praying towards that end, and we'll invite everybody to come that day. Make it a priority. Plan for it now, and we'll have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave, Tara, and Sarah, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been really a genuine pleasure getting to meet you guys, and I'm even more excited now to experience the event here on January 26th.
Okay. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.